This company sent me their MIG 205DS for test and review. So let's open it up, see what it comes with. So we've got the MIG gun. It looks like it's got one of the Euro connectors on it. Gas hose, ground clamp or work clamp, an electrode holder, 240 plug to a 110 plug. So the cord on the machine is a 120 volt plug, an instruction book, and one wheel. This looks like a flux core knurled wheel. Yeah, one sheet quick start guide and then a user's manual. And this extra wheel is a 0.8 or a 0.9 flux core wheel. Got MIG, TIG, and stick. No TIG torch included. Both 110 or 220 volt. Got a gas inlet, on-off switch, and a coolant fan on the back. And then on the front we've got two buttons. It shows this in the manual as a spool gun, so it might be spool gun compatible. And on the inside of the door they give you this little chart. It's not a settings chart, but it shows you how to load and unload the machine and then the different plug configurations depending on what process you're going to be using. Looking inside, looks like we can take either a 10-11 pound spool or the smaller ones. You can take this off and put a smaller spool on there. And it does have a wheel on here for solid wire. It's 0.8 on one side or a 1.0 on the other side. We'll start out with some flux core wire and we'll load it up with that and we'll fire it up and see how it welds. So I got a roll of 1mm flux core wire. It came with one of these other machines that I've reviewed in the past. And it doesn't have a 1mm flux core wheel, so I put the 0.9 flux core wheel on there. We'll see if we can make it work. I'm betting we can. About a 7.5 foot cord, so I'm going to run it on 220, so I'm going to use the adapter. And this is one of those backwards adapters that we've seen on some of these budget machines. Not my preferred setup, but it'll work, I suppose. Just hold it and it goes into high speed. Put our 1.0 tip on there. And I think we're just about ready to go. It's a nice visible screen. You can read it quite easily. You can use the mode button to adjust for different processes. So it is spool gun capable. Up here at the top you got MMA or stick, lift TIG, MIG mag, MIG mix, and then flux core. And we're using flux core. If you long press this button on the left here, you can switch between 2T and 4T. So we'll put it back on 2T. And if you hit short press, and then you can adjust the arc length. And that goes between -30 and +30. We'll just leave it at 0. Short press again and it goes to inductance. But once you get there you can go +20 or -20. So I'm just going to leave them both on 0 at the moment. And then of course over here it's a synergic machine, so you can adjust your wire feed speed and it will automatically adjust the voltage. So I just have some 1/8 inch bed frame all welded together. This is a practice piece. I've got a lot of different welds on here. But here's a spot right here where there is no weld. We'll just run a flat bead down that and then I'll show it to you and we'll see how it does. We're using 17.5 bolts and it says 204 meters per minute on the machine. I got a couple pieces of bed frame material again and I'll just tack these together for a T-joint. We'll run a T-joint on there with the same settings. Now this machine does have a temperature controlled fan, so when you first turn the machine on, the fan does not come on. But after you work it enough to get it up to temperature and kind of warm, the fan will come on. I'm just going to do a weld over a previous weld. I'm going to run this up to 18 volts. Looks like that's 303 meters per minute. That weld that you see there is a little bit cold, so we'll try to put in a little hotter weld over the top just to test it out at a little higher setting. Well, sorry, I forgot to turn the camera on for the actual weld, but that's what it looks like before I clean it up. We'll do one more across the bottom. See if I can remember to turn the camera on this time. And you can hear the fan came back on. It's not a super loud fan. It's not too bad. I've got the MIG gun in the positive and the work clamp in the negative, set up just like it shows in the manual. All right, I'm hooked up to 75-25 mixed gas. We've got it on MIG mix. The tag on the back says that the machine will put out 160 amps on 220 volt input. So I've got it into a 240 volt plug-in. So maxed out 19.2 volts, 354 on the wire feed. That should give us 160 amps according to the plate on the back of the machine. I've got some bed frame material. It's just under 1/8 inch thick. All right, here's the piece of bed frame material. Let me show you what thickness we're working with here. It's 0.89 on thickness. And you saw I have the machine maxed out. 354 on the wire feed speed and then 19.2 on voltage. I'm running 030 wire too, by the way. So that's on the max settings of the machine. That looks cold to me. Now I'll just run a bead across the top here. Same settings, maxed out on the machine, and we'll see what that looks like. I don't know if you can notice on the video, but it stands out pretty far from the surface of the metal there. It doesn't look to me like it's sunk in there very well. I think it looks cold. Let me know in the comments what you think. I don't think this machine puts out what it says it puts out. Now, if you're welding thinner materials, I think it'll be fine. Like if you're in auto body and you want to do body work, sheet metal and that sort of thing, it'll probably treat you pretty well. But if you're wanting to go thicker, I mean, it should be able to do 1/8 inch, especially for a 220 volt machine. That's all my opinion. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's see if this thing will stick weld. First, let's undo the MIG gun. Just dangle that one down there. We'll put the work clamp in the negative, rod holder in the positive. All right, so on the screen, when we go from Flux, we're gonna hit the mode button until we're up at the top, MMA. And the only function option you have is VRD on or off. If you hold that button down for 3 to 5 seconds, let go, now we're in VRD. So it drops the voltage when it's not welding, a little safer in a wet environment. So we'll just leave that on. And I've got some 1/8 inch 6013 rods. Let's try them at 90 and we'll see how they do there. And a couple of flat spots here. We'll just run a bead with that 1/8 inch 6013 rod and see what it does. All right, I blew through. That's too hot, or I'm going way too slow. I'm going to turn it down to 85. See if I can fill that in. All right, I'll keep it at 85 and I'll run a bead right next to it. We'll see what that looks like. The bottom one was the one I burnt through. I filled the hole just for fun. Then I ran the one across the top at 85 amps. So it'll definitely stick weld. So let's do a couple more beads up here on the top one and see how it does. I think it's still a little bit hot. We'll just do it at the same setting, 85 amps, and I'll get moving on this one a little better. Well, it stick welds, and really not too bad. No hot start or anti-stick, but it does 6013 rods just fine. So that's a look at the Sefaspe MIG 205DS. I'll put a link for it in the description if you're interested. Thanks to Sefaspe for sending it out. And we'll see you guys on the next video.